Welcome to Designing the Future. This series is a space for dialogue, reflection, and imagination, where Indigenous voices lead the way in rethinking the systems that shape our lives. From education and healthcare to governance, economies, and beyond, we'll explore how Indigenous knowledge, lived experience, and cultural wisdom can guide us towards a more inclusive and equitable tomorrow. The conversations you'll hear are grounded in story and spirit. They are not just ideas, but lived realities that carry both resilience and responsibility. Some of what we share may be sensitive, as it touches on histories of harm, systemic inequities, and ongoing struggles faced by Indigenous peoples. We encourage you to listen with openness and care, and to remember that healing and transformation come through truth, respect, and relationship. This is not simply a podcast or a video series. It's an invitation to imagine new possibilities, to engage critically, and to act collectively. Together, let's design a future that honors Indigenous knowledge and creates space for equity, dignity, and respect for all. I'm your host, Laura Mueller, and this is Designing the Future. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. We are back for another episode of Designing the Future. I'm your host, Laura Mueller, and today we have Lheidli Thomas with us. Lheidli has been a friend of mine for a long time. We used to work together at the bingo hall. And so today, just a little bit more of a warning, because today's episode is on missing and murdered Indigenous women and justice, and just kind of figuring out where we are, where we want to be, and integrating Lheidli's story into that. So, tell the viewers who you are and a little bit about your story.
My name is Lheidli Thomas. I'm the mother of Isabelle Thomas. She was 22 when she was murdered by a friend that wanted to have something more, I think. But 2 years ago, he stopped by her place about 3 times before he actually committed the crime of murdering her in front of her 2 children. The 6-year-old witnessed everything. So it happened in a span of 35 seconds. She was stabbed 16 times, and 2 of those stab wounds would have resulted in instant quadriplegia. So he just finished with his murder trial, which he got murder 1, guilty on murder 1. So that's quite an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, for sure. So there's so much. That's heavy. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we know that we see a lot of initiatives for missing and murdered Indigenous women. And it's different when it's you, when it's your family.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey through that process, I couldn't even imagine what that would be like. So as far as justice goes, do you think that, first of all, do you feel that you got the result that you wanted from this?
Well, considering now at times that it's very hard to have a guilty verdict on murder 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very rare that you see an Indigenous person get justice for murder 1.
Yeah.
As opposed to something lesser of a charge. So he'll be in jail for life. Yeah. But after 25 years, he gets a chance for parole, which means he doesn't get it, but he still has the opportunity to apply. And one thing I forgot, that the guy that murdered my daughter, he was on parole. He was on an ankle monitor. He stabbed somebody, another boy, an Indigenous boy, for no reason, just making an offhanded comment. And then he got stabbed, but he survived his injuries because he had family there that was close by to help with the situation. But he was supposed to be monitored And the way that the monitoring system for parolees is it needs to be changed
Yeah.
because, as I found out through court, that a person can be paroled and they can be put on an ankle monitor, doesn't mean that they'll be actually monitored because a number of things can go wrong with take it the weather, the
Oh,
high
wow.
buildings, going like putting your feet under like a dashboard of a car or whatever can
Really?
stop the signal from being monitored. So even going into a store like Walmart will you you're not monitored.
Wow.
And this guy breached his conditions 33 times
Wow.
and nothing was done. He wasn't, the only way that they'll collect the data for somebody being monitored is if a police person or a parole officer specifically requests for data.
Yeah.
And then that's when they'll take all the data into consideration and compile it to see if they breached a condition or not.
Well, and I mean, that's a huge conversation that's happening in our community right now is catch and release. And, trying to figure out how to manage even the downtown core with repeat offenders. And I mean, it's hard because we don't necessarily have the answer. And I mean, where do we even go from there? How do we even figure this out? Like,
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's a the trial concluded, I got the information from one of the prosecutors that was trying to keep this individual behind bars because he stabbed somebody, and then because his parents bought his way out is only reason he was let go.
yeah,
And she was trying to fight to keep him in jail, and the judge dismissed her
wow,
and said that because it was his only first offense,
yeah,
that he'll be that society was not in danger of him. So I think that needs to change on
yeah,
how people are let go and how people are monitored because nobody's safe at all
yeah,
on the streets.
yeah,
Being in public when you're supposed to when you're supposed to be safe
yeah.
from predators and people that like to do harm. So I don't think none of us knows exactly what how how safe we're not.
Yeah, yeah. The reality of the situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've heard you talk about how you want to start advocating or start trying to do something to help. I've seen you do a lot of work advocating for the memory of Isabelle. What does that look like? What are you hoping to what are your next steps or what are you thinking?
My whole goal is to change the laws. Because no parent should have to go through this.
Yeah.
I've known other people call out for help,
Yeah.
saying that our justice system needs to be changed and nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah.
So I think the way I'm going is I want to spread as much information as I can about how people are being monitored and
Yeah.
how they're let go and try to change that because I don't I don't think like I said I never knew about like how inadequate we're our lives are being put on the line for somebody that's being let out of jail. That's kind of a shell shock. And what I want to do is to voice my um, voice myself and my concern, and then probably take it a step further by collecting data on how many people are hurt or killed by a person on parole. Because I know that things that are going on right now, it's not going to change anything unless they have the government has facts.
Yeah.
So that is what my next position going forward is, to see what I can do about collecting facts and trying to get the word out publicly as best as I could, and try to see what the next step from there is.
I mean, and that makes sense with technology and stuff. I had came across a PhD graduate. They were just graduated, and they had used data to show that it was more beneficial to address the homelessness within their area than it was just to leave it from a government and monetary and fiscal policy position. So I think once we have those numbers and once we start to understand, it gives us a better idea of where the resources can be put, like how we can better manage things like that as well. On the other side, too, I'm curious because you'd mentioned at certain times the resources and supports that you received. Because I know there's still, gaps where the system could do a better job. But how did you, because you received, I believe, a lot of support from Carrier Sekani.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, especially in a situation like this, like how do you manage without that support? Like you wouldn't.
Oh, it's something nobody should have to go through. But then it was almost like a circle of like everything that came together at the right time was situated perfectly throughout this whole ordeal. And our band, if they didn't put the people beside me every day, I don't think, like, our band is probably the second biggest supporter that I've had, aside from Kersakani, BC Filu.
And your nation is Nodley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had two people coming to trial every day.
Wow.
They so they got their travel and room paid for, so I can have that support. And
Yeah.
without that, I don't think I would have been as strong as I was, because there's strength in numbers.
Yeah. Absolutely. In every episode, every time I talk to anybody, anywhere I go, we're looking for community and healing. And it keeps coming back to that. Did you find there was traditional support? I mean, what does even traditional support look like for justice? Because I mean, I don't even think that's something we necessarily think of.
Yeah. At the beginning, when my daughter was first pronounced, I had a lady from the IRSS, when I was first let back into her house. She was there, and she was smudging her place, and she was giving me the emotional support and cultural support at the same time. So IRSS is another big support system that I had in the beginning. And then, yeah, it was just I was grateful for all the support that I received. And
Yeah. Yeah, because I did see a lot of drummers and a lot of community just really surrounding you.
yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, because how do you even get up, right? Like that's, and I mean, you get up with the help of others in that kind of in that gravity of the situation.
hmm
Was there anything that you would have, any additional sports that you would have liked to see?
um, I didn't. Victim services was also quite handy to have information from too, because navigating court is
Yeah.
really tough, and I can see why that people get upset, because until trial happened, I didn't know exactly what happened to my daughter. They couldn't even tell me.
Wow.
So so when it first went into court, and then I found out exactly what happened and what how things ended the way they did, and I had a whole bunch of like emotions, things that I probably, if I knew something back then, I probably would have had more time to prepare, because I was ready to go full forces on everybody about the police that showed up, the ambulance attendants. Like, why couldn't they save my daughter? Like, I had information that the ambulance attendants waited outside 13 minutes before they entered my daughter's home.
Oh, wow.
And because I didn't know any of the details until trial started, 2 years of having multiple questions and go unanswered
Yeah.
into details. And I know that they needed to keep the confidentiality because it was an ongoing case. And I didn't push it for the simple reason that I know how court is being dealt with, because I had 8 years of court going for MCFD going through my grandsons.
Yeah.
So I had an idea of what not to expect, or how long to expect it or whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind waiting the 2 years, but just the unanswered questions and the speculation on why didn't they do something more. But
Yeah.
as I know now, there's nothing that could have been done.
Yeah. Yeah, that waiting, I can imagine that would be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
What kind of aftercare supports have you and even her children, now that you have, and I mean, there's no conclusion to this, but now that have that verdict, what do you hope, what kind of supports do you hope to receive for yourself and for her girls?
Um, well, I don't know. Because of the parents, they signed a piece of paper saying that they'll take full responsibility of their son. When they signed that money over to whoever they did to get him out of jail, they signed a piece of paper saying that they'll watch him and that he won't go unsupervised. He was supposed to be with his mom 24 hours, basically.
Yeah.
And then she was out taking a vacation while he did this.
Wow. And I mean, because the trouble is that we're not familiar with the whole system.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, you don't have, and you're not, this isn't something you just learn about.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because the system is overtaxed and we just don't have enough jail space, or we don't have enough. And I mean, it's hard to tell unless you kind of look further into it, but yeah, like it just, and I mean, as individuals, that I think that's what's hard, because even, when they had that rally at the CN Center about, the issues with downtown, how as individuals do we even have, sometimes we feel like we have no power to do anything. So that's what's kind of hard, is to figure out, okay, well, how do we come together and do something?
Yeah.
So that we can figure out what needs to be done.
I think it all, like, I think it's up to one person to start making change, and
Yeah.
I think it only takes one person, and then other people want to help, and it snowballs into that. And then, like, individually, we can't do anything,
Yeah.
but collectively, we can do lots.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what I'm seeing in other areas as well, like these grassroots initiatives and people coming together to kind of form coalitions or groups where it's like, okay, how are we going to approach this? And how are we going to, because there are people that are doing work, I think, and what I'm kind of seeing, and the reason why, what inspired me to do this whole series, because it's like the nodes, like there's people doing individual work, really good work together, but it's like they're not necessarily communicating with each other. And it's those relationship opportunities to start building that collaboration. I think that might be key when it comes to all of this. And to really talk to the individuals that have been impacted and the people that it affects, because I think that's part of what we're missing is, we're looking at a top-down approach, but we need to start talking to the people whose lives are affected. Because, I mean, even with a lot of the crimes that are committed downtown, for instance, a lot of them, I mean, it's hard because there's a lot of drug and alcohol issues. And it's so much deeper than just a surface level, let's throw everybody in jail, because there's a reason they're not doing that. Or at least that's what, why aren't they doing that? We don't know, right? So that's hard, because it's like, okay, well, situations like yours where there were so many opportunities and points for this to be stopped, for the progression of him to not make it to the point where this happened. That's where it's like, okay, how do we figure that out then? What's the solution for that? And yeah, and I think it comes down more to a lot of the data and trying to figure out, I mean, what kind of data are we looking for here? Right?
Yeah, it's trying to navigate something that you don't know how to or where to begin.
Yeah.
It's quite hard, but I'm thinking maybe I'm just trying to figure out where the best place to look for there. I think there should be a Canada archive or whatever where things you can find out things like that. But
What kind of policies do you want to look at changing? Obviously, catch and release, right? But,
yeah, so that, well, even first time offenders can have a hard time, like, stay being out in public and trying to keep our streets safer, trying to keep our children safer,
yeah.
our grandchildren safer, because my granddaughters are without a mother right now. And the oldest one, she lost her dad 18 months prior to her mom. And then I got a 6-month-old at the time
No.
that wouldn't know her mom at all.
Yeah.
So
Well, even with your grandsons, because I know it affected them quite a
Yeah,
bit too,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then just the emotional part of like how close my oldest grandson was with his auntie.
Mm.
That was he gave her like a I think a ring that's made out of
Yeah.
eraser. I think he went down and gave it to her and asked if she can be his Valentine. So
Oh,
every Valentine's or whatever, even when she's feeling down, he always buy her flowers or chocolate or whatever. But
yeah.
that was his first Valentine, and it's every time Valentine's Day comes around, he doesn't know what to do because he has no Valentine now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like a lot of like things that are not going to come to pass now because this individual has been taken away from you, taken out of life for no reason at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a big component of that is keeping those stories alive. I mean, I think it's so important to, I'm working on a research project on like anti-Indigenous stuff and, even with the racism and stuff like that. And what's kind of coming up from my research is the stories and humanizing people. And, because we know what the narrative in Canada is.
Yeah,
It's hard and there's a lot of racism and trying to get people to have empathy and to actually feel emotion for Indigenous people. That's not always the case.
yeah,
And I mean, even with, justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women, even with, I mean, this is Alberta, but even with Samuel Bird and everything that happened with, the police and we don't know the whole story. So I'm hesitant to kind of talk about that. But statistically, we're more marginalized in every single housing, income, supports, all of it. But we're still not there. We're not even close to being where we need to be as far as what we need, even with mental health and things like that. And it's hard when we don't have, allyship for that as well, because, a lot of people just, it's just another missing Indigenous woman. And that's hard
yeah.
because it's like, well, so if I went missing, people wouldn't care as much as they would if it was somebody else. So what do you think kind of needs to happen in that respect as well?
Well, I have a niece that was murdered, like probably 1 month prior to my daughter, and
Wow.
because it happened on a reserve, they're like the whole community is trying to protect that boy that killed my niece, and
Wow.
my sister is still waiting for justice to be done,
That's
or
awful.
even accountability from the police in saying, oh, she was just probably drunk or
Yeah.
something to do with drugs, or because it was in a on a in their community that I don't think the police take it too seriously. Whereas, like Prince George, I know some of the police officers, if they didn't do their due diligence, the Crown Council wouldn't have had such an amazing, like, case that they had
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't for the police.
Mm.
And I think it's all up to the police individually that where their mindset is at.
Yeah.
Because I know I can only speak in my daughter's case that they went above and beyond, probably because there was a 6-year-old and
Yeah.
that witnessed her mom being murdered.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a pivotal point, but because my daughter was Native, I again with 2 years and not knowing what happened or how things transpired. Yeah, can only think of the worst case scenario. And now that we got a guilty verdict, I think it was the best outcome from every possible direction. The police, the prosecutors, like everybody in between that
Yeah.
did an amazing job on getting my daughter's case solved and coming to this point.
That's really beautiful, because we, I mean, Indigenous people struggle with, we still struggle a lot with RCMP, with institutions, with authority, with trusting in the government even, because of the amount of systemic harm that we've endured, and even continue to endure with the Indian Act, right? So I'm really grateful that you had that experience, because it's not, I mean, for lack of a better way, like with everything that's happened, I mean, that was the best that you could have hoped for. And that's, I'm grateful at least for that, right? Because, so yeah, so what do you need? What do you need?
I just need awareness, because I think that's where my next step is to make people aware and have like slowly change people's minds about how safe they are
Yeah.
in order for me to go to the next step. In like any lawyer that I come across, like ask them, like I ask like certain questions, and then I don't think no lawyer in there like wants to ruin their career over trying to change the government and
Yeah.
how policy is. So I think trying to find a lawyer to that would like to make changes, or even a politician,
Yeah.
and then
Social
see if we
justice.
can collab and saying that we need to better our system.
Yeah. Because there are people that are doing the work and that want to help. And I think it's about, yeah, making those connections and, yeah. So you know what you need, you know how to get there. So yeah, I guess you're just going to do it.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
not going to be an overnight solution.
It isn't. No.
So it's going to be probably a decade or more to make things change as fast as they could in a molasses type of way.
Yeah, I know that's the hardest part. That I think that's of all the things that I've learned through this whole process and journey, is that you have to be patient and you have to, because this type of level of change is possible, but it is a very slow process and it is a collective initiative and it's all of us. And people, I think, often forget they're way more powerful than they realize.
Yeah.
And we're just coming to a close. I'm just going to quickly say something, then I'll let you kind of have a closing word. But I remember, I can't remember who sings this song, but it's called "I Wish You Pain," and it's in the video. It's about all of these people that have suffered this immense loss, but through that loss, they've created something so incredibly beautiful, and that's what I see for you. And that's what I see. I very much know I've watched you and how much resilience and how much strength you've pulled together. And there's no doubt in my mind that you are going to do whatever it is that you set out to do. So, and whenever you need help, there will be people that will help you for sure. Even myself. There will be people that are going to help you get to whatever it is that you want to accomplish for sure. So, any last thoughts or anything you want to share? Thank you so much this is a hard conversation to have. And you always just do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's because my daughter, like when I was going through struggles and going through my health, my daughter was always there.
Yeah.
She was my 100% supporter. She was 100% behind me. She loved me unconditionally. So I think that's my main reason that I'm doing this for her, because she was always there for me. And her daughters deserve the world,
Yeah.
a safe world.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you.